I'm going to take a drink. Want a drink? Yeah. Take some for you. Let there be light. No, that's the Bible. Allahu Akbar. We're just getting warmed up. Don't worry about a thing. So they said in these tabloids, websites, and other sources of misinformation, something about Prophet ﷺ getting married at a young age. Only actually, they didn't even say that. They said having sex with a 6-year-old girl. This is what it says. I got news for you. There's no evidence for anything like this in Islam. What we have is people offered marriage. And she herself said she was called into the house by her mother. Who? Her mother. Her mother said, come in the house. Okay. She went in the house, and who was there? Her father. And her father is offering marriage of his daughter to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, who happens to be his best friend all of his life. And this was a common practice in their days. However, if you read closely, you'll notice she didn't get married because she said she went back outside and played in the dirt. Therefore, that wasn't marriage. Did you hear the word sex in there anywhere? I didn't hear it. But you know what happens after you watch too much television and read too much of this garbage? You start imagining things that really aren't there. Then another hadith, it says, later, she's older. Again, mother asks her to come in. Again, father is offering her in marriage. And this time it's accepted by Rasulullah ﷺ to prove a point from Quran chapter 4 verse 19. If you're a Christian, you go by numbers like we used to do with the Bible, okay? It's in Surah An-Nisa. It's very clear. Oh, you who believe, you can't inherit women against their will. It means you can't take away from them their rights. And their right is to choose who they want to get married to, when, and where. And that has to be a woman who's reached what we call majority or past puberty. And when Aisha had reached that level, then again her father offers her in marriage, and it was accepted by her. And it's a legitimate contract where you have witnesses and you sign papers and you get married. Huh? Get married. That's what he did. And that's strange that the people who attack and use this, and they say, look at that, excuse me, nowhere in this does it mention sex, it mentions marriage. A legitimate relationship between two people that her parents wanted, she wanted, and he accepted. If you understand that, and you can still put that on a tabloid and say it, then, come on. I'm sure those same people saw Elvis on the moon, okay? So let it slide. Main thing to know is, though, listen to this. The statements made by Lady Aisha radiallahu anha until the day she died were consistent always of praising him as being true, honest, fair, patient, and he never, ever, ever hit his wives. That's her words. Never did that. She never said a disparaging word against her husband. He died while she was young, and she lived to be quite an old age. And during that whole entire time, she was known as one of the biggest scholars of Islam, even until this day, but never once did she say a bad word against her husband. I'm going to ask you a question. How many women do you know who, after they're divorced or the husband dies, they say bad words against them? How many times? And you know it. And how about some even while they're still alive, even while they're still married to them? But she never did it once. In fact, she spoke about their relationship together in the most glowing terms about how they played together when she was young. They used to race each other. She said, and I used to win the races until I got fat, and then he used to beat me in the race. This is what she said. She talked about things when she used to tease him and trick him and play. Oh, my gosh. Even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talk about it in Surah At-Tahrim, chapter 66. Read it for yourself what she did. It was not very good. She told him his breath smelled bad because he had been eating honey. Why? She was jealous because he was stopping somewhere and getting this honey. So she made that up. And then he said, well, if my breath smells bad, maybe this honey is haram. And then Allah revealed the verse, oh, my prophet, don't make haram something I didn't make haram. Read it for yourself. She teased him, but he still loved her. He still took care of her. And subhanAllah, he was always like this. So if you understand this, I want to ask you a question. I want you to really think about it. Here is a relationship between a man and a woman. and we're talking about Aisha and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he spoke fine of her throughout his life. He never said a bad word against her. People charged her with some horrible crime, which Allah defended her in the Quran, chapter 24, Surah An-Nur. Very clear, Allah clears her of the accusation they made about sex against her, just like people in those days made accusations, just like they do today. And Allah tells you what's going to happen to these people who do it. And Allah will punish them. But Allah cleared her name. And Allah will always clear her name and His name of such things, as we're attempting to do now with this program. I want you to pay attention to something else, too. Such a beautiful relationship between two people, where it's spoken about in such glowing terms. And she talks about their intimacy together in a way that we, as human beings today, when we get married, we know how to treat our wives. That before a man go to his wife, that there are things that he should do and how he should treat her, please her, etc. It's detailed, but in the nicest ways. Something you could not find even in Masters and Johnson's study about what was called Everything You Want to Know About Sex, what was afraid to ask, if you read that book in the 60s, 70s when it came out. Much better than that, and much more detailed and much more accurate, and by the way, better science in it as well. All of this is coming to us from this relationship with these two beautiful people. And now I ask you to consider, what is the true romance? What is the true love story? When you consider what I just told you, or you compare that to Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, where both of them committed suicide at the end, I ask you. And the promise of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam for anybody committing suicide to go to hell forever. Whereas in the promise in Islam for Muhammad and Aisha is to go to paradise forever. Which is the better love story? You be the judge. In an article we wrote called Muhammad A to Z, that's another website, muhammadatoz.com, I wrote about some of the subjects of the relationship of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And part of it I put on there what others said about Muhammad, and we quoted people like George Bernard Shaw, Mahatma Gandhi, and people who said glowing things about Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even saying that if he were alive today, he could bring about a cure to the world's ailments. They said that. But then I wrote another part. It's called What His Companions Said About Him. Now stop and think about this. Hundreds and thousands of companions, followers, and friends of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Each and every single one of them in any tradition ever narrated, they always said consistently that he was the prophet of Allah, that he was the mercy to mankind, and they themselves said what I'm saying now, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Peace, blessings, and mercy of Allah be on him. Now I ask you again to consider, what do we see today? For the followers of Tony Blair, and there are many, followers of Mr. Bush, and there are many, followers of the different leaders of the world today, and there are many, but do they all consistently always say good about that person, or do they occasionally say, you know, this guy's a jerk? I'm serious. I'm just asking you. And I have people that I love, and I support him too, but he's a live human being, and he makes mistakes. And by the way, speaking of live human beings that we follow, it's hard for me to give a speech in front of Sheikh Jafar Idris, who's sitting here right now, one of our best teachers, by the way. But, Jazakallah khair, ya Sheikh. I don't know anything bad about him, and if I did, I wouldn't tell you anyway. But all I can tell you is kids are all taller than he is. But for sure, I want you to consider about something and think about this real hard. How could it be that all of these people, men and women alike, consistently reported the same characteristic about Muhammad? They always said good things. None of them criticized him. None of them said a disparaging word. And that's amazing when you consider the hundreds and thousands of hadiths that are out there, yet none of them say anything that even apply a mistake on the side of Muhammad. Peace and blessing.